Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Fort, and we are here for day 9, if you can believe that, day 9 of the 12 days of Litmus, and today is my favorite quote on literature. This comes after my favorite quote on writing, and I think the two are different enough also to explain my difference between the two things, if that makes any sense. But before starting here, I think it is important to define literature, and I did a bit of that in yesterday's video, but I think that it may be profitable going forward in this video to do it again. Literature is descriptive, not prescriptive. Literature is not from where our morals, values, beliefs are taken, but it is where they might be formed. I think that there is a difference there, and it is something that is definitely worth examining. Literature is not a monument to civilization because its foundation is more ephemeral than that. Rather, I would argue that literature is civilization itself, something which is every bit as easy to appreciate and as difficult to point at. This may seem a grandiose claim, but I think it is primal, I think it is instinctive, and I think it is true. Think of, perhaps fittingly, the holidays. Many families get together in a warm house, which satiates a primal need. They eat another primal need, and then what? After that, the storytelling begins. And then comes war. War over the interpretation of stories. It is, I believe, universally agreed upon that people will seek warmth, people will scavenge food, and eventually they will war. I suggest, humbly perhaps, that storytelling is a part of this picture that is every bit as inevitable as the need for warmth, the need for food, and the need to war. But I digress. Literature is that which forces interpretation, not that which mandates outcome. It forces us inwards so that we must examine the self. And I think that at present, my favorite quote on literature comes from T.S. Eliot, who, though he hailed from my home state, did not exhibit that touch of Midwestern humility. Ironically, this quote exhibits great dollops of humility, and it goes as such. And I have no idea where he said this, but I've seen this in enough secondary sources to believe that it is true that he said this. And the quote goes, these first couple words are where a lot of the difference between where you find the quote and what it says comes. The best anyone can hope for is to be wrong about Shakespeare in a new way. Again, the best anyone can hope for is to be wrong about Shakespeare in a new way. The first small thing to be observed here is that people will continue to try. It is inevitable. Literature is a part of what it means to be human. So when we are sat in front of it, we're going to try to pick it apart and decide what it means. Even if we are able to admit that what it means is only what it means to us, we're still going to make that effort. Second, the idea about hoping to be wrong in a new way, though I think it falsely suggests that there is an absolute way to interpret something, does pay service to the idea of an ever-evolving and perma-plural way to love literature and apply it to one's own life. This is not to say that it's silly to think that there was some it with which Shakespeare wrote his pieces, but why should we care? As Christopher Hitchens once said regarding free speech, my own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. So too should the liberal use of literature be applied and enjoyed and defended, as indeed freedom of interpretation is a necessary extension of the freedom of expression. This is not to say, however, that there are not more or less solid arguments as to why someone claims a certain interpretation, but it should open the discussion thereof, not close it. To further the discussion of literature is to further the understanding and appreciation of literature, which it seems is what all of us are doing here on BookTube. And I doubt that I am the first, and I know that I will not be the last monkey, to find a positive correlation between an appreciation for literature and an understanding of the self. And just like literature, I believe people to be ever-evolving and perma-plural, so perhaps we can never truly know ourselves. But it is difficult to get bored enough to cause war if we're constantly finding new ways to be wrong about the self instead of each other. That is it for this day 9 of Litmus. I hope to see you again tomorrow for day 10, which is my favorite nonfiction writer, and if you paid close enough attention, there was a bit of that today as well.